everybody. Welcome to the Soul Space. It must be Monday night at 7 o'clock because I'm always here in Strong Island Studios, Paradise Studios in Massapequa, Long Island on Mondays at 7. Lots going on out there in the world. I hope you guys are all staying cool if you're in the northeast of the United States like I am, and also kind of going with the flow wherever you are. I have to say there's been so much happening in the world, and also I've been getting so many calls for readings and just kind of sessions with coaching that it seems like all of us are starting to go through some real transitions. And we're going to talk about that tonight when we discuss the change of Uranus going into Gemini. So I'm going to give us a minute to pile into the show. I was a few minutes late getting on tonight because I had some stuff going on and we hit traffic. And you know me, I'm always a little bit off the time frame. So welcome, everybody. I did post the show in the show link in the social media. So hopefully you're all finding that. And just in case you're not, I will go over to that screen now and share the show with you guys. Make sure that's on. Take a few minutes to do our housekeeping tonight, right? And I'd love to hear your reactions to our last show. We had a lot of people in on that. And here we are. Okay, great. Yep, shows up. All right, so we're just going to be on here live now. Okay, so that should do it. So welcome, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about the planet Uranus going into Gemini. And Uranus takes about 84, give or take a few years, to go through the whole entire zodiac. So there's a lot of history with the planet being in Gemini and the things that happen. And as an astrologer, a lot of times when we look at the history of what happens the last time an energy was in play or a planet was in a certain place in the zodiac, it's pretty cool because we can kind of predict a little bit what it's going to be like this time around. So history does really tell us quite a lot of stuff. And I actually like that aspect of astrology because I am actually a history buff as well. So it kind of plays into both my loves. So please comment tonight if you have anything that you want to know about or anything that you want us to actually deal with further on the show. Let me know, and we will definitely get you on the air. We are live, so you can actually call into the show too. We'll put that number up tonight, or you can just put in the comments, and I will answer any questions you might have about astrology or anything else that you want to talk about. So we've got some people coming in now. I'm going to get started. Okay. So we start a new month tomorrow. Can't believe June is already gone. I feel like it has just flown by. But July is going to be a very exciting month. First couple of weeks of July, we're going to feel some shifts. And then as the month progresses, that energy is actually going to get more intense. The end of July is very intense. And when I say intense, I mean that you're going to experience change. We're going to see a lot of volatility in the world, but nothing that we can't handle because we're going to stay in our soul space. So just to give you a couple of things that are happening this week, I know we have in the United States of America, where I live, we have the 4th of July weekend. That is when we celebrate our independence. We all wear red, white, and blue, and we have barbecues and flags and family get-togethers. It's a time to really celebrate our country. And July 4th this year, we have some things going on. First of all, Venus enters Gemini July 4th. So that's more Gemini energy than we've even had recently. Going to amp that Gemini energy up. Then Neptune stations retrograde in Aries, and Saturn will follow it in retrograde this month. Neptune and Saturn just went into Aries. That is an energy of emerging birth for wherever it lands in your chart, whatever house it's in. For me, that's right on the cusp of like my 4th house. So what that means for me is that I am going to have a lot of things happening in the area of my family and home, and that's interesting to me. So it's really a time when we can kind of plan if we know the astrological weather that's coming in. And that's why later on in the show, I'm going to go through each sign and how Uranus is going to affect you in that way. All right. And I'm just going to check my comments. Here's the live chat. All right. So first, Venus enters Gemini, then Neptune stations retrograde. Neptune and Saturn are just at the beginning of Aries. So when they go retrograde, they're going to start in the next few months to go back into the Pisces energy that they've been in for the last several years. When that happens, we're going to face over like towards the end of July and then over the summer and somewhat into the fall. What that causes is an energy when Saturn and Neptune especially are together in that retrograde motion headed back to Pisces. That's going to create a time in our lives for us, again, depending on what house it's affecting in your chart, where you're going to have a lot of beginnings and endings. So Aries is that beginning energy. It's that new emerging energy. It's finding a new way to do things. And Pisces is the escapism. It's the delusion. It's the illusion. It's the dreaminess. It's the ethereal. Aries is action. It's ruled by Mars. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, which is a very dreamy, floaty kind of an energy. So remember, when those two planets now are together and they're in a retrograde motion, it's going to bring in whatever you've experienced over the last 11 years when Neptune was in Pisces. It just started to go into Aries this year. So the 11 years prior to that, when Neptune was in Pisces, what kind of things were you focused on as far as spirituality, connection, your ability to dream and hope? Did you fall into escapism? Did you have some kind of addictions that maybe now you've emerged from, or some patterns of illusion? Now we're going to revisit those a little bit, and it's going to be like a stop and start. It's going to be a very somewhat frustrating, but it's also going to be a good energy, because it's almost like, you have a great meal and you enjoyed it and everything was great. And now it's time to, what they call crumb the table. If you ever eat in a very nice restaurant, they have that little silver thing that almost looks like a little baby spatula, and they come in and they crumb the table and they clear the crumbs. That's what this energy is going to feel like in a stop and go motion, because it's the residual of what was left in Pisces in this last 11 years. Now Saturn and Neptune go back there to clear it out, sweep the porch, sweep the table of its crumbs. And then finally, when they go into Aries for good, we really start that emerging energy. But we've had a taste of that emergence because Saturn and Neptune went into Aries. So look where that is in your chart, what house, where it affects you. If you have any other planets there, if you need a reading, you go on zenkuda.com. Really good time to get a reading, guys, because we have a lot of planets moving around. And when I look at your chart, I can pinpoint for you exactly how this is going to affect you and your life in the next little while or year or whatever you really want to look into. So that's the energy of that particular transit. Then we have Venus going into Gemini. Venus in Gemini, you will feel the shift, because Venus is a planet that talks about our values, what we value, what we love, not just romance in a way. Hey, Aaron, but also, hey, Marie, but also in what is important to us. Like, what hill do we want to die on? Like, what do we really gets our juices revved up, and where do we really want to put our efforts for, because we really value that thing, or that thing is just so important to us. That's Venus. It's our heart. It's our soul. It's what we love. It's also the romance and all that. But when Venus goes into Gemini, it can be duplicity. It can be one thing's right and one thing's wrong, or both things can be right, or it's a paradox. What is a paradox? A paradox is, have you ever been thirsty and you drink a lot of water, and then all of a sudden you get really thirsty because you've drank so much water? That's a paradox, that drinking water can make you thirstier. It's that something, is it true? Is it really not true? What am I seeing? Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? That's Gemini energy. The reason why the universe gives us that energy is so that we learn to be aware and be deeply curious enough to find answers and seek answers. It's in the seeking and in the curiosity where our wisdom comes from, where we understand the paradox, and now we've gained more intelligence, we've gained more tools, we've gained more resources. That's Gemini energy. So with Venus going there, it can be that things become fickle, almost as though those relationships that we all are in, we see both sides of them, or we see something we didn't see before. Uranus likes to rule over things that we like to keep hidden. And Gemini, with Uranus going in there now, is going to really be enhancing that energy whenever a planet crosses through Gemini. So that happens. And then on the 7th of July, the biggie of the month happens, where Uranus enters Gemini. When Uranus enters Gemini, that's going to really be a change, because Uranus is a outer planet, which means it affects everyone. It's not a personal planet, even though it will affect our lives personally. When Uranus goes into Gemini, you're going to feel a big shift, because it's been in Taurus for 7 years. And that's an earth energy. It's a very heavy energy at times. It's a very fixed energy. Taurus is the bull. You can't push a bull, right? You can't make it do something it doesn't want to do. Now it goes into Gemini, this beautiful planet of shocks and awe and awakening and change. And now in Gemini, it is air. It moves. It has movement. You can almost feel the big, huge planet Uranus going, it's so nice to be in air again. You almost feel it doing that. So now Uranus being Uranus, even though at times it can be a very good friend to us, once I'm going to explain, we go through a Uranus transit, but now it feels air. It feels refreshed. And the one thing about Uranus is it is the planet of sudden, shocking change and awakenings. So think about if that energy felt refreshed. All of a sudden, it's going to get its mojo back. And don't be surprised if it comes in with a swoosh or a bang or some kind of a heavy wind. So when Uranus goes into Gemini on the 7th, expect a change. You will feel the change because Uranus is the great awakener. And Uranus's purpose in our charts, in our lives, in the world, in the universe, is to create situations and circumstances where we are forced into understanding a higher consciousness, a different perspective, the paradox, the multiplicity, the understanding that the way we have been living needs to change, wherever that falls in your chart. And I'm going to go through the houses. But just remember that Aaron says Uranus likes a big shock too. It's true. Uranus likes shocking. Uranus is like, the person who you're told it's a black tie wedding and it's very conservative, and someone walks in wearing purple with ostrich feathers. That's Uranus. It likes to shock. But the thing is, Uranus isn't just going to come and quietly eat a piece of wedding cake in her purple ostrich feathered attire. No, Uranus is going to make sure all the tables get turned over, everyone has cake on their face, and the catering hall probably needs a new roof. That's Uranus. So it's a little bit of a wrecking ball. However, it's nothing to be feared because remember, Uranus, this big, beautiful planet, its whole purpose is to bring us to a higher level of consciousness and a new perspective. So I'm going to go through with you guys a little bit about some specific details on that beautiful planet Uranus. But first, I just want to finish going through some of these changes this month. So Saturn stations retrograde on July 13th. And now we've got Saturn and Neptune in that backwards motion. You're going to start to feel the stop and starts because when they were in Aries, they started something. Now they're going to go back to Pisces to finish up whatever you didn't finish up over the last 11 years. So be aware. Best advice I can give you now is really have great awareness about what's going on in your life. Look and see of what is coming to the forefront. What are your insights, those sparks of intuition that you're getting? What are you noticing that you never noticed before? Because that's where the treasure is. All right. So you've got Saturn stationing retrograde. Then on 5 days later, on the 18th, Mercury stations retrograde. Now, this Saturn retrograde and the Mercury retrograde comes after a full moon in Capricorn. The full moon in Capricorn is on the 10th. And guys, a lot of times I talk a long time about a full moon. This full moon really isn't that impactful. We kind of get a break on the full moon stuff. It is in Capricorn. So, of course, if you have a Capricorn or Cancer, a lot of energy for those signs in your chart, you'll feel it more. But it's really kind of a nice full moon. I think it's kind of just setting up the energy for the future for us as all of these changes occur and are doing. So when that Capricorn full moon comes in, it's kind of nice, kind of like very Capricorn and steady and staid. But then on the 13th, we have Saturn stationing retrograde. It's now really lining up with Neptune. You're going to have a Neptune-Saturn conjunction, which is where that energy of the stop and start, the illusion, the delusion coming together with a structure of some kind that really points you out. It's a reality check in a really big way. And then that starts to occur around the 13th. It's going to be, kind of leading towards that all month long. And then we have Mercury going retrograde on the 18th. Now, we're not done with the retrogrades yet, because even later in the month, on the 30th, Chiron stations retrograde. Once those retrogrades happen, the crazy thing is that now we've got 4 planets in retrograde, because we've got Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Chiron all in retrograde, and then a 5th planet, Mercury in retrograde, so 5 actually. Chiron is the 5th one that comes in on the 30th. With that much retrograde motion for the summertime here in the States and wintertime, I know on the other side of the world, that means those seasons are going to take on an effort where maybe things slow down and stand still, or the issues that we're working on, the things that have been stubborn and not moving forward in our life, they are going to change because we have all these planetary shifts. But with this much retrograde motion, they become more introspective. They become more about what we're thinking. We're going to kind of, I would say, for us here in the States, have a more quiet summer. For you in the other parts of the world, a more quiet winter, in the sense of you might not want to socialize as much. You might not want to be in the crowds and the noise as much. There's going to be a lot of noise in the world these next few months. With this sky, there's going to be a lot of noise. But we somehow feel like we want to step back from it. We want to do our inner work. We want to go to a place where we're feeling the shifts within us, not watching them unfold. When the COVID pandemic came, it was a paradox as well, because we were glued to the TV sets to see what was going on in the world, and especially in the States here, where we had a lot of, unrest. But at the same time, we wanted to go within. We didn't mind so much being the homebody, right? This energy kind of mimics that, except that we're not going to be so glued to the media. We're not going to be so glued to the TV. I think you will find that you're going to find yourself wanting to go home and be in quiet, be in the backyard, be in the parks. This is just that type of energy, even though we have so many shifts and changes, because by July 31st, Venus then enters Cancer. It basically just flew through Gemini. And now in Cancer, Venus in Cancer is, a protect the homeland, I want to, go into, have a nice meal with my family. I want to sit and watch, the movies with the family. I want to play with the kids and the dog. That's Venus in Cancer. So let's talk about this huge shift of Uranus going into Gemini. Now, I know that you might think, oh, it's really not that big a huge shift, Georgia. It happens every 7 years, right? But the thing about that is, and I wrote a lot about this today, I'm going to be putting that on my blog on zenkuda.com, so go to the website. It'll be up probably by the end of tomorrow. What happens is, like I said, Gemini energy is a paradox, but Gemini energy is also an energy that we can look at, because it is filled with a lot of shock and awe. We can look at it in historic terms to see what it will bring. Now, there are some things going on with this particular egress of Uranus going into Gemini that are very different from history. Number one, we've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Even though they're retrograde and headed back to Pisces, they're in Aries pretty much now after that retrograde period for the duration of the next some odd years. Neptune, several years, probably, I think 13 years. So that has a signature. Neptune in Aries has a signature of wars and conflict over spirituality and religion. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? So we have that. And if you drill that down into the microcosm of your life, it may play out for you in a change in your own belief systems, your own spirituality. Where is it in your life where maybe a religion or spirit or a belief system was dictated to you in some way? A connection with greater divinity or a connection with a higher power has been a foundation for you, something you really believe in, but something you have not been able to see tangibly, believing in the unseen. But now in Aries, that Neptune energy starts to unravel a little bit. It starts to become unbound. It starts to dissolve. And our belief systems get questioned. The existential crisis comes in. It's an area where we want to take action on those feelings. When Neptune was in Pisces, if we had doubts or we had, wonderment of, is this real? Is it true? I don't know. It feels not clear. It's foggy. We didn't feel the need to pursue it as much. We thought about it and we maybe contemplated it a little bit, but we didn't take action on it. Pisces is not that type of sign. It just makes us unbound and floaty and boundless, and it dissolves boundaries. But in Aries now, Neptune wants us to take action on these doubts. It's going to question. It's going to make us want to find the tangibility in the unseen, to seek out, Aries is a fire sign. It's like putting the fire into the dream, putting fire into the illusion, testing it. Is this really what it is. Am I seeing what I'm seeing? This is ruled by Mars now. Neptune is ruled by Mars in Aries. So this is about asserting ourselves where we need to have a spiritual conflict resolved. And that is why you're seeing so much of this alignment and action going on in these biblical geographic areas on the planet. Because now with Neptune in Aries, it starts to take on a new emerging energy, and an energy of Mars war, god of war, and also an energy of assertion. We want answers. We want that ending, and we're going to push for it. That's the Neptune piece. Why am I talking so much about that with a show about Uranus and Gemini? Because it plays in very deeply, because historically when Uranus was in Gemini, we had certain signators and certain signatures. But now we've got that other energy in Aries with Neptune there that's really playing a part in the role that we have in our lives and in the globe. So let me talk a little bit more about Uranus. Uranus goes into Gemini. That's the first time in 77 years. It's the planet that brings awakening, sudden shock, and awe. It changes things suddenly. Why does it do that? To shock us into a higher consciousness, to bring us into an authentic being through crisis. I'll explain to you about my own Uranus experience. My Uranus experience happened, I had several of them throughout my life, where the way Uranus was placed in my chart in a very early age, it went over my sun, my moon, my ascendant, and then through my second house and into past my fourth, all areas of the chart that dealt with my own identity, my own soul, my own personality, my family life, etc. So I'm kind of a pro at Uranian crises. And what I can tell you is through each step of the way, my own experience with Uranus was when it comes in like a wrecking ball. For instance, at one point in my life when Uranus was very heavily influenced in my chart, I lost my mother and father 6 months apart, was diagnosed with cancer 6 months after my mother died. I watched her die of a disease that now I was just diagnosed with. Then my best friend of more than 35 years died of leukemia. And while I was in treatment for cancer, my husband had an affair and left. To say that my whole life disintegrated like the Tower card in the tarot is an understatement. I had business reversals, personal financial reversals. Everyone that I knew in my life that was close to me was no longer there. I was completely and utterly alone. I had a spiritual and existential crisis. I was brought up in very structured religion, and I just couldn't believe in them anymore because of what I had seen with death and what I had witnessed and the psychic experiences I'd had. All of these things, everything in my life was questioned. That was my Uranus experience, and I had others before then, but this was the pinnacle of it. It took that much electrical shock, and when Uranus experiences happen, you feel it in the body. When you have a Uranus transit, you will feel it in your nervous system. We're all going to be feeling things in our nervous system now because it's Gemini. It's an air sign. It's ruled by Uranus. Uranus is very much at home in Gemini. It's ruled by Mercury, and it amplifies it. It's communication. It's electricity. So when all of those things happened to me and I completely fell to the floor, I literally had no identity. It was as though I didn't know who I was anymore because all of the things I identified with were dissolved. They were just not there. The illusions that I carried about people, the person I was married to, who I thought he was, the way that my religion was going to hold me up in the face of death and despair, all of it fell to the floor and was completely just blown apart, literally blown apart. So what do you do in those circumstances? Well, yeah, you fall apart, you cry, you think about suicide, you are in complete and utter despair. But, for a lot of us, the human condition pulls us up, right? We have this resilience. That's Uranus. It does these things to show us the resilience. And so what Uranus did for me, and it's been in a transit very heavy in my chart the last couple of years as well, opposing my moon and my stellium in Scorpio, it makes you find your authenticity. I can tell you everything from the type of partner I looked for, the type of belief system I had coming into the occult and spirituality and tarot and Reiki and healing and astrology, from a very dogmatic structured religious life to the clothes that I wore. I literally went in a closet and threw out everything I owned and went shopping and bought completely different clothes. I listened to completely different music. I became a completely different person because I responded to the awakening that Uranus gave me. And what I found in the end when all that happened was Uranus was my friend when I let it drive the car. When I kept pushing it out of the driver's seat and kept trying to control everything that it was trying to do and shake up and dissolve and bomb and earthquake, when I kept pushing it out of the driver's seat and trying to maintain control in the heat of all of that stuff, upheaval, it didn't go good because there was just more and more upheaval. But when I let Uranus drive the car and I was like, okay, that's gone now. All right. Okay, this is my life now. You know, when I had days when I was utterly alone and I didn't know how to cope. And I can tell you, loneliness, you can die of loneliness. I can absolutely, positively tell you that. I think I can see how that could happen to someone. When your whole body hurts. I remember getting a dog, my beautiful Sparky, and I remember at times I would just hold him against my middle chakras because the pain in my body was so great because I was that lonely and that much grief. And when that happens to you, you get to know yourself really well. And in that despair and in that really dark place, you make friends with yourself. And you realize, okay, this is my life now, but I can change it. I can't go back and unravel the destruction, but I can build new. I can sweep the porch clean, get rid of this rubble, understand those things are not supposed to be my things. They're not supposed to work for me. And I can start to have a journey to find my soul space where the things that are for me live and find myself. And that's what I did. And for a really long time, it was just me in a backpack, walking on the beach, hiking to Fire Island, eating a slice of pizza, savoring every bite and saying, wow, this is what pizza really tastes like. Looking at a sky and seeing the gorgeous blue and white of the clouds against it, the leaves of the trees against the blue background of the sky, things I almost never saw before because I was seeing them through the constraints and the conditioning and the structures that were handed to me. And when Uranus came in and blew up my whole life, it handed me an opportunity to create my own structure that was clear and crisp and beautiful and expanded love. So don't fear Uranus. Whatever it's taking away from you or whatever a Uranus transit or the Uranus does in the globe, in the world, it does it to bring us to a much higher place. I am much happier now than I've ever been in my life. And I'm even happy when I walk on the beach alone still, or I'm home alone for days by myself, or, and I don't even have the dog anymore. And sometimes I'm with people and with a partner and with friends that I love and my family. And it's different because I cherish it, because I know what it's like now not to have any of it. And so if you can not fear Uranus and surrender to it and let it drive the car, that is the key, the surrender. It's in the surrender that we find the beauty. It's in letting go of the control dramas. I'm going to make you do this. I need you to do this. I want you to do this. We really don't need anything except our own damn selves to give us everything we need. And then the rest is the cream because in the coffee, because then when we're fulfilled, we bring that to all the things we do in our life, our relationships, our work, everything. And it makes us much more stable and much more appreciative of everything we have. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Uranus in history. And then I'm going to go through the charts of where Uranus is for you guys. For some reason, here's my, I'm going to say hi to some people. Hey, Cheryl, Marie's on. We've got Aaron on. I know Aaron has a lot of Gemini energy. Sarah's on. I've got Gira. Hey, Gira. Beautiful, beautiful. So glad everybody's watching tonight because this is a really important energy that we have. So Uranus in Taurus was from May 2018 to 2025. Want to bring that up because that's what we're coming off of. That's the energy we're coming off of. Taurus energy is an energy of self-preservation and security, and that is why the last 7 years brought changes to that for all of us. How do we hold security? What is security to us? The COVID pandemic was Uranus in Taurus. It was Uranus in Taurus saying, we're going to take away your creature comforts. We're going to take away what you think is your security and survival and show you can have other resources. That's all that Taurus energy for Uranus. Historically, in Uranus's spin around the globe, Uranus was also in Gemini during World War II. And when Uranus was in Gemini during World War II, this was an energy of the Holocaust, right? Now, the Holocaust is also a paradox. It was one of the worst things that ever happened in the history of humanity, and yet it gave us an awareness of the paradox of man can be so horrific and man can be so compassionate. The paradox of the persecution and the rescue, right? Man is responsible for both. What is true and what is not true? What am I seeing? Is it real? These are the paradoxes. Historically, when Uranus is in Gemini, we experience times of great war and technological innovation. There's a redrawing of world power. That is absolutely what will happen in the next several years with Uranus being in Gemini until 2033. You will see the world map redrawn. You will see the world power completely redrawn. You're going to see new ways of communicating. That's where AI is coming in now in a big way. Uranus in Gemini in 1774 to 1781 brought us the American Revolution, the birth of the United States, and the French Revolution. We saw the hot air balloon discovered. Ben Franklin found electricity. And in 1858 to 1866, it brought us the Civil War, the telegraph, and railroad travel. Most recently, Uranus in Gemini from 1941 to 48 brought us World War II and the Holocaust, and also innovations such as the first actual computer, transatlantic telephones, the transistor, and microwaves. It also brought us nuclear energy, which in itself is a paradox. Nuclear energy can be something we use to survive, right? And it's also something we use to completely destroy. More lives were destroyed by nuclear energy in the bomb dropped on Hiroshima than any other time a bomb was dropped. So it's a paradox, right? Now in America and other parts of the world, we're reopening nuclear power plants to power up AI, communication. So these are the things that Uranus brings. It's a paradox. It's a duality. And one of the ways that we can really make sure that we understand the things that are going to happen in our life and where these transitions happen is to remember to look at the binary of it. Look at the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. There's beauty in repulsive things, right? The Holocaust was repulsive, but it brought us a compassion and an understanding that we can never let that happen again. Is that what we're doing? Is it happening again? Well, some people can argue that for a long time because there are places in the globe where man still didn't understand. That's why the world revolves. That's why Uranus comes back again. This is what is happening. So the beautiful thing about Uranus in Gemini is that Gemini's superpower is curiosity. People will think Geminis are scattered and foggy and like they jump from thing to thing, like, oh, shiny object, oh, this. We can be very scattered in a Gemini energy, but it's because of the curiosity. So what you see, what you look, be curious about the binary, be curious about the paradox. That curiosity, what is this? Will it wound it? Am I getting this? Is this really what I'm seeing? That is a primitive thing because we need order. And we find order when we're curious. We're looking for order. Curiosity is something that we look for order. So our questions are prompted by a need for order. So if Uranus comes in and starts to blow everything apart and scatter everything in Gemini and make everything, deregulated and come apart, if we focus on exactly what's happening and we're curious about that and we ask the questions that we need, then the order will come. The main question being, what is it that I'm not understanding? I'm seeing this happening. This is happening in my life. What is it that I'm not understanding? What do I need to do so that this never happens again? Right? To seek is to ask is to seek. Confused yet? Well, that's Gemini. So the confusion is meant to elicit the curiosity that brings us back to the order. And I'm writing a big article about this, so you will absolutely understand. So now I'm going to, and I think you get the drift. I think I got some pretty brilliant people on here. Hey, Steph, how are you? I see Steph, I see Elaine on here, and you can play the show back afterwards. So now I'm going to go through some of the houses and what to expect for each of you in this beautiful Gemini energy. Okay, so if you are a Gemini rising or Gemini sun, this will really affect you. You'll probably have a lot of changes in your life. It's going to be changes for you regarding personal things because it's in your first house. So this is very personal. It's a mutable energy, so expect change. You might change your appearances. You might change the way you live. You might find changes to your personality. This is all about a very personal energy for you happening in the most personal parts of your life. Like you might, decide to completely dress differently or change your hair or get tattoos or something like that. But this is really about for you, your own personal signature. Cancer, if you are Cancer rising or Cancer sun, this is really happening around your 12th house energy. This is preparation meets opportunity. The last 7 years you've been preparing. When Gemini was in Taurus, this was all about wanting to retreat for specific reasons, maybe spiritual or just, very deep, soulful experiences. Well, now you're no longer just thinking about those experiences that you've thought about for the last 7 years. Now this is about really having those extraordinary experiences come to life in the form of maybe dreams, wishes, hopes, even astral travel. This is about wanting to bond and really be part of a spiritual community because this is soul work for you, my Cancer sun and risings. This is really about getting deep into the soul energy, and Uranus creating great change for you there. If you are a Leo sun or rising, this is your 11th house. This is where Uranus is at home. And this relates to the last 7 years, possibly changes in your career objectives, your aspirations in the material world, and in the groups of people that you associate in your material world. Whether good or whether in the last 7 years, Taurus caused a collapse or a windfall in those areas, the 11th house for you is really where before it was about what you did to survive. Now this is about a deep soulful fulfillment. It's more about what is valuable, what needs to go, what you're not happy with. Now you're going to start to walk away from some of that materialism, and you're going to start to go towards, what no longer serves you will be out the window. You're going to walk towards more, the good life, so to speak. If you're a Virgo rising, this is about career period before you found that this is a 10th house. Before it was really about more to do with things in more, I would say, ethereal. Now, with it being in your 10th house of career, this is going to bring a big resonance to what's happening around you as far as your option to change your fundamental existence, the way you appear to the outside world as far as your career goes. This is for Virgo, sun and rising. Your place on the world stage is going to drastically change, and also your place in the social part of your life and how you're seen in the world. For Libra, this is 9th house. This is about far horizons, foreign travel, different languages, things like that, and also more of a spiritual crisis. You're going to journey, whether that's real or in your mind, maybe through higher learning or taking a course of study that has to do with some kind of foreign thing or a spiritual type of learning. But this is going to create changes for you where you're going to receive some very deep messages and intuition, especially when you discover your profound awakenings and discoveries about yourself and the world around you. So Libra, you're going to be going on a voyage of discovery. Scorpio, this is the 8th house for you. This can be about money, but other people's money, not yours. Your spouse's money, your partner's money, parent money, inheritances, taxes, things like that. For the last 7 years, when Uranus was in Taurus, for my Scorpio risings and Scorpio suns, this was all about relationships for you. Now it goes into the 8th house, and it's going to be about inheritances, other people's finances, taxes, rewards. It could also be having reversals, like you get debts from other people as well. But this is all about, shared resources. It could be, you and an ex actually divvy up something that you own together, or it could be just other people's money is going to be really affecting you for the last 7 years. And remember, Uranus works in both the positive and the negative for all of these things that I'm saying. Sagittarius, this is in your Sagittarius rising. This is in your relationship house. This is going to be up and down relationships, people coming in and out of your life. It doesn't have to just be romantic. It can be in different ways. This is enlightenment through people. Like every relationship is something, brings you some form of enlightenment and change. You also will be very attracted to things that are not of the norm. Relationships where you're attracted to a completely different person. For Capricorn rising, this is daily routine, work and health. whatever for the last 6 or 7 years you've been drawn to in those areas, it's going to really change. If you've been going to the gym every day, you're going to find something else to do. You're going to like be bored with that now. Everything you do to run your life, your foundations, your purpose, they start to break down because Uranus wants you to rebuild those routines and those daily things. Health, changes from the normal to like anything could be possible, but you're going to experience a lot of awarenesses. And by the end of this 7-year stretch for Capricorn, you're going to really know yourself because of all these different changes. Aquarius, this is your 5th house. It is children. It is fertility. If you're trying to have a baby or you have too many kids or something to do with your kids are changing, kids are leaving, kids are coming back. It's also creativity. This is your solar house. It's where your creativity comes into the world. So remember, the spotlight is on you in those areas. So you're going to have attention, and the attention that you get is going to definitely change. And also that fertility, whether it's creative or with babies, is in the works for change. Pisces, 4th house, family, foundational things in your house, your ancestors, stability, home within, your sanctuary. This is the bedrock of your life changing over the next 7 years. Don't be afraid of that. Aries, 3rd house, this is your outlook on life, communication, and siblings, the way we interpret events and the way we communicate. New languages, small world in immediate relationships, in your small world, not in your big horizon type world. Becoming aware of your surroundings, neighbors, cousins, siblings, communication. The way you communicate in your relationships with those things is going to completely change. Taurus, this is your 2nd house. This is anything to do with trade, mercantile, merchants, but it's also what you do for money. And if you're in business or you sell things, this is very changeable for you. It's like almost like a seasonal feel. It's learning how to adapt to the changes in an income. You're going to have windfalls and you're going to have a little deprivation. And it's going to keep going on and off. So prepare accordingly. Remember, when we know the astrological weather, we can prepare. So each one of these areas of life that I have talked about, and I'll put up a little chart in the media. You can also play this show back. I might do a more in-depth thing about this, but whatever house it is working on for you, you can come to me for a reading. We'll go over it all, zenkuda.com. It can be a really great energy, great change, or it can also be a detriment or a sudden shock to create that change that you need. Just like at the end of this 7 years with Uranus and Taurus, we are all ultimately changed for the better. We've been through COVID. We've been through the deprivation. We've been through watching, countries fight and wars. That's never going to end. All of those things, deprivation and plentiful and abundance and great things, that's the cycle of time, right? But through each cycle, we learn, we grow, we evolve. And as I said, humans are the only species responsible for their own evolution. So we have to pay attention. The way to deal with Uranus is to be curious, to ask those questions. What do I need to look at? What needs to change? What do I need to do to get through these changes? Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Why is this happening? What do I need to do to allow this to be for my benefit and highest good? Those are the changes. And there's a lot of other things happening in the world, not just Uranus going into Gemini, but that was the big thing I wanted to talk about on tonight's show. If you need to book a reading, you can go on zenkuda.com. You pick a time and a date, and the calendar actually just gives it to you right then and there. And then we meet on Zoom, and I give you a video of the reading, so it's really great. I can do astrology, we can do tarot, whatever is your, attraction, whatever you're attracted to, we can do. I'm going to be here with you every step of the way to guide you until the rest of this year and beyond. So please tune in, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Zenkuda, because I want to do lives there. And, really quick lives where you can chat and we can all get on there. And I need a certain amount of followers to do that. So please, if you have not yet, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, share the channel, and I will see you all back here in the soul space. If you have questions, put them in the chat, instant message me, DM me, and we will answer those and get more information out there and more wisdom for you. This is what I source my life from. I love you all. See you next week in the soul space, if not before. Bye-bye now. Hi, everybody. It's Georgia Rose from Zenkuda, and here is our beautiful new website, zenkuda.com. So I want to show you a little bit and give you a tour of this beautiful site that we have. And everything is all in one place now, and you can do everything Zenkuda right on our website. So when you log into the homepage, there's a little space here where you can go right to Zencuda Astrology, online classes, or book a reading or coaching session with me. Not only do I offer astrology readings and coaching sessions, but I also do tarot work and all kinds of things to help you get in touch with your own soul space and living Zencuda. There's also a place here where I describe my journey and what it was like for me to actually found the Zencuda community and be able to bring you all of the healing techniques that we do and the philosophies of evolutionary astrology, spiritual wisdom, and yoga. And you can read about what my journey was like. And in addition to that, if you go on to book a reading, you can actually book a reading for any session that you really would like to have. For instance, a 1-hour astrology chart reading, a tarot card reading. I also do synastry chart readings for couples. And I can also do a long distance healing meditation and Reiki session. And you can even purchase our Circle of Light Oracle cards, which were created by myself in order to put healing and light into your day. If you go back up, there's also a space where we're going to be putting our online classes. Those will be very, very soon. If you'd like to be informed about those online classes about astrology and spirituality, yoga, all sorts of things, you can join our wait list and just give us your email and we'll be sure to let you know exactly when classes will be starting. And this button here brings you right to the Soul Space podcast. You can now watch the Soul Space live or past Soul Space podcast right on our Zencuda.com page. You can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube and enjoy every minute and never miss a show. So I hope you'll look at this beautiful website. I'm also writing blogs about my journey, and we're in the process of importing all the older blogs that I've written in the last 5 to 10 years right on our Rose blog page, which is my beautiful blog. And you can, anytime you want, just come in and read all about my own journey to finding Zencuda. If you want to work with me in a small or large group, or book me for reading, or doing a gallery style reading, or a public speaking event, or even a retreat, you can do that on our Work with Georgia page. And hopefully we can help you create your future with some coaching or some astrology workshops. So that is our beautiful Zencuda.com site. I hope you'll be on there. We're also developing a space for community on there where you can learn more about astrology and spirituality and all kinds of things, and we can support each other on our beautiful, beautiful journey to finding our own soul space and living Zencuda.